Julia shut down her laptop and stretched, feeling the ache of the day in her shoulders and neck. The morning had dragged on endlessly. A client presentation that ran over time, a tense staff meeting, and revisions to a contract that seemed never ending. Her head throbbed, and all she wanted was to get home, take a long shower, and collapse on the sofa with a good book. Her two-bedroom apartment on Lincoln Avenue had become her sanctuary over the past 2 years. She had saved diligently, taken out a mortgage, and when she finally held the keys in her hands, it was like dropping a backpack full of stones she had been carrying for decades. Gradually, she had decorated it, picking out furniture, choosing textiles, and arranging books on the shelves. Every corner was deliberate, every item had its place. Julia had met Eric at a friend's office party during the spring. Tall, athletic, with a warm, easy smile, he immediately caught her attention. They had struck up a conversation by the snack table, exchanged numbers, and soon began dating. Eric proved attentive. He would walk her to her car after work, bring flowers without reason, and never forgot important dates. After 6 months, he proposed. Julia hadn't said yes immediately. She spent a week weighing the decision. In the end, she realized he was right for her, calm, reliable, and without any odd quirks. They set the wedding for the following summer. For now, Eric still rented an apartment across town, while Julia lived in her own. A month ago, Eric had asked, "Julia, can I keep a spare key? It'll be convenient. If there's something urgent, I can pop by, water the plants when you're on a trip, or grab the mail." She agreed. After all, it made sense. Soon they'd be living together. What difference did it make if he had the key now or in a few months? "Just let me know when you're coming," she added. "Of course," Eric had smiled. Since then, Eric had stopped by a few times bringing groceries. Once, when Julia was delayed at work, he watered the plants. He always gave notice. Tonight, Julia left the office around 8. The November evening was chilly, drizzling lightly. She pulled her hood over her head and hurried toward the subway, thinking about the leftover casserole waiting in her fridge. Just heat it up, shower, read. A perfect plan. The apartment hallway smelled of dampness and old radiators as usual. She climbed to the 4th floor, fingers fumbling for her keys, and froze. 3 large suitcases and a rolling bag were standing by her door. Frowning, she wondered if neighbors had made a mistake. But why at her door? Did they get the floor wrong? Unlocking the door, she stepped inside and heard voices, loud female voices coming from the bedroom. "Mom, where should I put the iron?" "Right here on this table, it's convenient." Julia stood frozen, keys in hand, her heart sinking. What was happening? Slowly, she hung her jacket and stepped into the hallway. The bedroom door was ajar. Inside were 2 women, one older, perhaps 50, in a navy dress with neatly styled hair. The other younger, around 30, in jeans and a sweater. Julia recognized them immediately. Lucille Harper, Eric's mother, and Anna, his sister. She had seen them a few times at family dinners. Lucille was arranging items on the bed, while Anna rifled through a suitcase. "Excuse me," Julia said firmly. They turned. Lucille smiled as if greeting an old friend. "Ah, Julia, you're here. We've almost unpacked everything." Julia blinked. "Unpacked what?" she asked, confused. "Our things. There's been a little situation. While our apartment is being repaired, we thought we could stay here temporarily." Julia's mind raced. "Repair?" "Yes. The pipes burst last night. Upstairs, neighbors flooded the entire apartment. We had to call emergency repair crews. They said at least a week for drying, then the renovation. So Anna and I decided to stay here. Eric gave us the keys. Said it was fine." Julia froze. Eric had given keys to strangers, her future in-laws, without even telling her. "He knows you're here?" she asked. "Of course he gave us permission," Lucille replied, her tone calm. We're practically family. The wedding's coming soon. What's the fuss? Julia's anger simmered beneath the surface. He should have asked me first, Lucille shrugged. We're family, Julia. Soon you'll see. Eric thought you'd be okay. Her smile now seemed strained. He made a mistake. You're upset? Anna, who had been silent until now, interjected. Julia, don't be difficult. Our apartment is flooded. We have nowhere else to go. Do you want Mom to sleep in a hotel? You could rent a place, Julia said firmly. There are plenty of options. Anna's eyes narrowed. That costs money. Why pay when you have a 2-bedroom? Julia stepped into the bedroom and noticed her bed. The sheets she loved, lavender printed, were gone. In their place were plain beige ones. Where's my bedding? She demanded. We washed it. It's drying in the bathroom. You can sleep elsewhere, Lucille said lightly. This is my bed. I sleep here. You find somewhere else. Lucille's face tightened, her tone harsh. Julia, our apartment is unlivable. Eric said we could stay. You want to pick a fight with your fiancé? Julia's jaw tightened. I want to understand why he didn't ask me first. Because he knew you wouldn't say no, Lucille said with a false smile. Julia pulled out her phone and called Eric. The line rang. Hi, Julia. How's it going? Eric, your mum and sister are in my apartment. They moved in. Oh, I wanted to tell you, but you were busy with the presentation. Mum's place flooded. We had to act fast. You acted without my consent. They rearranged my things, changed my bedding, and occupied my fridge. Is this acceptable? Mom overreacted, but she's just trying to settle in. It's her nature, Eric said, exhaling nervously. Nature doesn't justify intrusion. This is my home. You crossed a line, Eric. Let's talk later, Julia. I'm busy now, he said, and the call ended. Julia turned back to Lucille, who was now standing in the kitchen, arms crossed. Talk to him? Yes, Julia said evenly. He agrees with you. But I'm asking you to leave my apartment. Lucille's jaw tightened. We've unpacked everything. Are you serious? Absolutely, Julia replied. Find another place. You are temporary guests, not residents. Anna huffed in disbelief. The apartment is huge. There's space for everyone. It's my apartment. Eric can't decide who lives here, Julia said firmly. Lucille glared. So you're kicking us out? No. I'm asserting my boundaries, Julia said, unwavering. Lucille grabbed her suitcase. Anna followed, still seething. We'll remember this hospitality, Julia. Very well. Julia exhaled, feeling the weight lift slightly. She had defended her space, her rules, her sanctuary. But the day wasn't over, and the night promised more reflection. The apartment was quiet again. Julia sat at the kitchen table, fingers drumming lightly on the wood, trying to steady her breath. The sound of the rain outside had slowed, leaving a gentle tapping against the windows. The city lights reflected on the wet asphalt, casting a soft glow into the apartment. She moved to the bedroom and stripped the unfamiliar bedding from her bed, tossing it into the laundry basket. Carefully, she laid out her lavender-patterned sheets, smoothing the wrinkles and fluffing her pillows. Her bed was hers again, her sanctuary intact. She checked the refrigerator. The casserole had been shoved to the lower shelf, almost touching the freezer. Containers she had organized meticulously had been shifted, and an unrecognizable salad now occupied the top shelf. Julia discarded the salad, returned her containers to their original spots, and placed her casserole back where it belonged. On the stove, a pot with some kind of meat stew sat. Without hesitation, she poured the contents down the sink, rinsed the pot, and set it aside for Lucille to retrieve if she wanted. As the clock neared 9, her phone rang. It was Eric. Julia hesitated before answering. Julia. His voice was cautious. Mom told me what happened. What's going on? What you heard, Julia replied firmly. You gave your mother and sister access to my apartment without telling me. They rearranged my things, changed my bedding, and used my kitchen. That's not okay. Eric sighed, running a hand through his hair. I thought you'd understand. Mum's apartment flooded, and I wanted to help. I didn't think you'd refuse. Helping doesn't mean taking over my home. There are hotels, temporary rentals. That's not my problem. You overstepped. There was a pause on the line. Julia could hear him swallowing, frustrated, unsure of what to say. Let's talk tonight, he finally said. I want to fix this. No, I need space to think, Julia answered, placing the phone down. She walked to the window, the city stretched out before her. Cars passed, leaving trails of reflections in the wet streets. People hurried home under umbrellas. The world moved on, indifferent, while inside, she made a choice. The night passed without sleep. Julia lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the past months. First dates, the excitement, the wedding plans. Eric's relationship with his mother had always seemed harmless, even endearing. Now it appeared controlling, his compliance to her whims alarming. She realized that if she married him without addressing this, her own life would be constantly overshadowed by his family's interference. The next morning, Julia woke early. She took a long shower, sipped coffee, and called a locksmith she knew. Victor, good morning. I need to change the locks today if possible. Of course, Julia. I'll be there in about 90 minutes. When Victor arrived, he worked efficiently and quietly. Within 40 minutes, a new sturdy lock was installed, complete with 3 keys. Julia tested it. Smooth, firm, perfect. Now no one could enter without her permission. Not Eric, not his mother, not Anna. The day stretched on. Eric called repeatedly, his messages piling up. Apologies, please to meet, explanations. Lucille left voicemails complaining, accusing Julia of selfishness, ungratefulness. Anna sent sharp texts insisting Julia had been unreasonable. Julia ignored them all, maintaining her composure at work. Her colleagues noticed nothing. At 6:30 p.m., Julia left the office and made her way to the cafe on Madison Avenue where she had agreed to meet Eric. The evening was cold but clear, the sky heavy with clouds. Eric sat at a corner table, 2 cappuccinos steaming in front of him. Seeing Julia, he stood instinctively, reaching out. She sat, unresponsive, across from him. Hi, he started cautiously. Hello, Eric. We need to talk, Julia said evenly. He exhaled, sitting down. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I should have asked your permission before giving my mother a key. You gave keys to strangers. They invaded my home, moved my things, changed my bedding, and expected me to sleep in the living room. Is this what you consider acceptable? Eric looked down. My mom? She can be overbearing, yes. But I didn't think it would upset you this much. I thought it was the right thing to do. Your right to act without my consent ends at the door of my apartment, Julia said firmly. Boundaries are not optional, Eric. They're essential. There was a long silence. The cafe was filled with quiet murmurs, the smell of coffee, the low hum of the espresso machine. Julia sipped her cappuccino, letting the heat fill her. Finally, she set it down and looked directly at him. Eric, there will be no wedding, she said calmly. His face paled. Julia, what? Not because of anger or one argument. I realized we are incompatible. We cannot respect each other's boundaries, and marriage requires that respect. This stops now. He opened his mouth to protest, but she continued. I've thought about this for weeks. The decision is final. I'm returning this. From her bag, she took the engagement ring, placing it on the table in front of him. Take it back. Eric stared at the ring, then at Julia, disbelief washing over him. Are you serious? Completely, she said. You will find someone who is comfortable with your family's constant interference. I am not that person. Eric tried to argue, tried to reason, but Julia shook her head. Better now than after a year of marriage when resentment would have built. "This is over." She rose, putting on her coat. "I wish you happiness, Eric. Goodbye." Julia walked out into the crisp night air. The cold hit her, but it felt cleansing, invigorating. At home, she slipped off her boots, hung her coat, and made tea, curling up by the window with a blanket. Outside, the city continued its indifferent rhythm. Cars, lights, music, people in motion. She didn't check her phone. She didn't respond. For days, Eric tried to reach her, as did his mother and sister. She ignored calls and messages, blocking contacts one by one. She continued living her life. Work, books, friends, quiet evenings. The apartment was finally hers again. A true sanctuary. Weeks later, her mother called. "Julia, how are you?" Eric stopped calling. "Yes, Mom, it's over." "And you're not sad?" Julia thought for a moment. "No, not sad, not angry, just relieved. My home, my rules, my life." Snow fell outside as December arrived, blanketing the city in white. Julia watched, feeling calm, grounded, and certain. She had reclaimed her life, her apartment, her boundaries. Her sanctuary remained untouched, safe, and hers, and that was enough.